This past year, I've realized something about accountability that I think has really made a really big difference in my life, which is no one can actually hold you accountable except yourself. Hi everyone, welcome back to Bold Clarity, where we slow the noise, tell the truth, and make room for the version of yourself you want to become. I am so excited for you to be back for episode 2. And today we are going to spend some time just talking through accountability and alignment and get into some of the nitty-gritty of the process. So last episode, we talked about the importance of taking the time to get to know yourself and be really honest about who you are, and then figuring out, well, who do I want to become? And so this week, some of the things that we will discuss will be tools that you can use while you're in this process to make sure that you are in alignment with the person that you want to be. A couple of things to start. When we talk about alignment, everything that you do, you want to make sure that it is representative of the things that are most important to you. And so if we think about the specifics around the person that we want to become, we want to make sure that when we are showing up in any setting, that that person is being represented. And so I know that a lot of us spend time thinking about our goals and getting clear on what it is that we want to achieve. And that is such an important part of the process. And what you want to do once you come up with that is figure out kind of almost backwards plan to what that needs to look like on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, so that you can have mile markers to show yourself that you are on the right path. And so everyone, when you write down your goals, you should break them down, right, beyond just the year, right? So what does my month need to look like so that I know I'm on track for what I want to accomplish this year, who I want to be this year? What does that need to look like each week? What does that need to look like each day? From there, you can come up with, honestly, a foolproof plan for making sure that you stay on your path. So one of the things that was huge in my growth, a huge part of my growth, which I talked about last time, was the idea of calendaring. And so I mentioned that, in real estate, that's something that as agents we talk about all the time. And to be really honest, what I found is time blocking is something that everyone should do, no matter what profession you're in. And the reason I say that is when you get specific with how you're spending your time, you bring a really high level of awareness to what you're spending your time doing. A lot of us don't naturally take note of what we're doing with our time, and it can honestly be kind of shocking when you see how much time you're spending on certain tasks. And so regardless of what career you're in or kind of what phase of life you're in right now, it's really important for you to take control of how you are spending your time. So for me, when I went through this process, I looked at my targets, right, which were very much in alignment to the person that I want to be. And I thought about the types of habits that I wanted to make sure that I implemented. And so, for example, we spoke last time about journaling in the morning being a habit of mine that was really important. That's something that's on my calendar. I know it may seem weird, and I've had people on my team look at my calendar and they're like, Asia, what is that? And it makes a huge difference, I promise. So you want to get granular on what are you doing. And so when I made my calendar, I kind of put everything into buckets, right? So professional, right? What are the things that I'm doing on a weekly basis or a monthly basis that are in alignment to, what I want or need to do professionally? I put my family goals on there, right? Like I have a daughter, I want to spend time with her. And so making sure that that is something that I am being intentional with planning. Your health, right? Mental health, physical health. Those are things that belong on your calendar. Your spiritual health, if you go to church or you're a part of a small group, whatever it is that you know is going to contribute to you being the best version of yourself, you want to create those buckets and you want to outline, what do I actually need to do? I personally use the Google Calendar, and so I make a bunch of reoccurring invites based on how much time I know I need to spend on each task, right? And the idea is that every single week I can pull up my calendar and I can see very clearly what I have coming up for each day and each week. And what that does for me mentally is it allows me to have a high level of clarity around how I'm spending my time. And so I personally check my calendar every single morning. So after I do my journaling in the morning, I look at my calendar, I see what I have going on for the day. And then each week, typically like 1 to 2 times a week, I'm actually looking at my calendar and I'm reflecting and saying, did I actually do this? Like, I know I put it on my calendar, but did I do it? And if I didn't, I'm asking myself the question of, okay, well, was that something that was actually important? Was that something that you actually wanted or needed to do that was in alignment with who you are? Because if you didn't do it and it was on there, maybe it's not, right? And so it's a way for you to check in with how you're spending your time and to have these consistent check-ins so that you continue on the path that you've outlined for yourself that is aligned to, you know, who you want to become. The kind of second part of this conversation is around accountability. And so, as I mentioned, you can create the most amazing calendar in the world and it can be color coordinated and you can have everything planned out. And yet the mindset and the discipline that's required to stick to a calendar, a lot of times that takes work, right? And I know we talk a lot just in society about accountability and getting accountability buddies, and those things are certainly helpful to make sure that you have people around you that are also in alignment to who you want to be. And this past year, I've realized something about accountability that I think has really made a really big difference in my life, which is no one can actually hold you accountable except yourself. You can have an accountability buddy and they can remind you to do something and they can say, hey, did you stick to your calendar this week? Or hey, did you go to the gym this morning? You can even have somebody that goes to the gym with you. But at the end of the day, you have to work out yourself. It's you that's physically moving, right? And so this idea that accountability is so personal, it really made such a difference for me because I was kind of forced to examine, what am I actually taking ownership of? I was kind of using this idea that someone else could hold me accountable almost as a crutch, and it really wasn't working out too well. So you want to hold yourself accountable. And that does not mean that you go on a growth journey on your own or that you don't depend on other people in areas of your life. It does mean that you acknowledge the power that you have and you own that and you are intentional with what you use that power for. And so as you think about the things that you want to do, the things that you need to do, a very important part of this is going to be, at the end of the day, you checking in with yourself and you acknowledging what you're doing, what you're not doing, what gaps you're seeing, all that good stuff. And so I think that taking the time to ask yourself some questions throughout the week, throughout your day, so that you can continue to monitor how you're showing up and what you're doing is a really good way to stay on top of this process and hold yourself accountable. So asking yourself, when are some times this week or today that I showed up in a way that I really liked or that I was really proud of? Taking note of that, writing it down, even talking to somebody else about it, a great opportunity. Just putting some thought behind when did I feel really good, and acknowledging some of the themes that might be reoccurrent, right? Like, okay, I kind of noticed that when I spend time with this person or when I do this activity, I feel like I'm showing up really, really well. Well, that's probably something you want to continue to give time to. You want to continue to give energy to. Also, asking yourself some hard questions like, when are some times that I didn't feel great about how I showed up? And why did I not feel great about it? Was I unprepared? Was I not in the right mindset? Did I not spend my energy well before this activity? Figuring out what are some of the things that maybe you're doing that aren't actually lending themselves to who you want to be. Being able to identify those things is so powerful, because then you get to change those things if you want to, if you need to. Overall, just making sure that you carve out time for you to have these conversations and for you to really figure out, what am I doing? You know, and having those check-ins on a consistent basis. It's something that we miss, in that with very busy lives, we may, push to the side and say, oh, I don't really have time to reflect. Growing is really, really hard if you don't reflect. And honestly, it might be kind of impossible. You grow when you know what you're doing, when you know what you're doing that's not working so well, because then you have that awareness and the capacity to implement something different so that you can get a different result. A lot of us walk around blindly and we're kind of reactive, and it's like we just get pulled into a million different directions throughout the day, whether it's from your job or your family, your social life, and you look up and maybe a week has gone by, maybe a month has gone by, maybe years have gone by, and you have not actually taken the time to survey yourself and what you are doing and how you are spending your time and what's making you feel really good and what's making you feel really bad. And you miss the opportunity to continue doing the things that are awesome and that bring you energy and that are aligned to the person that you want to be. And then maybe to also get rid of some of the things that are not great for you. One of the tools that I used to use all the time as a teacher was a stop, start, continue chart. And we used it, I taught math. So we used it, with specific subjects, but it's something that I've used a lot with myself and with the agents on my team, where every once in a while we do stop, start, continue, right? So it's another just easy, practical way for you to take note of what's going on. And so you simply get a piece of paper and you write start, stop, continue at the top. You make a list of the things that you want to start doing, a list of the things that you want to stop doing, and a list of the things that you want to continue doing. And it is a great way for you to just plainly see, where do I want to make some adjustments? And then you can from there figure out exactly how you want to make adjustments. And there's plenty of tools out there that you can use to facilitate that kind of conversation with yourself, where you can start to think about some of those things. I would encourage you to find a way where at least once a week you have some way that you are checking in with yourself about your energy, about how you're spending your time, about the moments that feel really good, about the things that maybe you want to do that you didn't do. It's a lot less overwhelming to look back on a week and say, okay, I missed some things and okay, I can add them in, versus to look back a month or a year and realize, oh, whoa, I said I wanted to be at this place and I'm all the way over here. Now what do I do? So the more frequently you check in with yourself and get really honest about the things that you're doing, the more opportunities that you're giving yourself to make sure that you are in alignment with who you want to be. And when you think about that alignment, I know for me, a really big thing this year was me showing up in every area of my life as Asia. I didn't want the Asia at work to be completely different than the Asia at home. And while yes, there are certain boundaries that are going to differ in different areas in your life, fundamentally, I wanted to make sure that my values were things that were consistent. I didn't want my values at work to not be the same as my values at home with my family. And by checking in and looking at practical things like how I'm spending my time, I was able to really understand where some of that disconnect was coming from, where I really didn't feel great or super proud about how I showed up. And it always kind of went back to my values and, okay, but why aren't you showing this value here? And it just caused me to think in a way that I don't think I took the time to think in before. And I think that it's very powerful to be consistent with who you are and your values. And I think that's how you build really strong, genuine, impactful relationships. And while you don't have to, talk to your coworker in the exact same way that you would talk to your best friend, you would want your coworker and your best friend to be able to walk away and say, hey, I know that being caring is something that's really important to that person. And so having those themes, those common threads in different arenas is just a part of this journey. So the other value to you checking in with yourself is you being able to acknowledge your growth and celebrate the progress. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves, especially when we're on these types of journeys where we want to get better. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves to just be better. And when you take the time to check in and really figure out what you're doing, you are also able to then realize and acknowledge the progress that you're making. And the progress that you make is so important because it encourages you to keep going. It's nice to see like, okay, I am working on myself and there are things that I'm doing that are working and that are getting me one step closer to being the type of person that I want to be. And so if you are not taking the time to do things like start, stop, continue, it's really difficult for you to acknowledge like, oh, wow, I used to do XYZ and now look. And the stamina that's required of you on this journey is going to be sustained by you acknowledging your progress. If you don't, it's going to be really easy to give up and just walk away and say, oh, never mind, I'll try another time. So you want to celebrate yourself by saying, hey, look at me. I'm working on myself. I'm doing something differently. I'm being intentional, and that will give you energy to keep going. So this week, I would love for you to post in the comments one small win that you tracked for yourself, just from the last 7 days even, just something that you're proud of, that you want to celebrate. Again, it doesn't have to be anything grand, right? It's the little things that end up making the biggest impact. So please post your small win in the comments, and thanks again for tuning in to Bold Clarity. And if you heard something that sounded good to you or inspired you, please make sure that you subscribe and follow me on social media at AsiaPate on Instagram. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode of Bold Clarity.